Hi everybody, this is Doug and I want to welcome you to our new video series called Conversations. And Conversations is us talking to people about real life situations that they've had to deal with and they've made it through the other side of things like grief of losing your loved one. Where was God in the middle of that? People have had affairs threatened to destroy their marriage and they've made it back from that. The pornography has threatened marriage and they've made it back from that. People that have had trauma affect their life, relationships, and they've made it through to the other side of that. And it's not all that kind of thing. We've had some people that have suffered through some church hurt and have come back around to be able to trust and to be involved in church again. And so we hope that you will find this helpful to you, these real conversations with real people and how they made it through, just to, for no other reason, just to say, hey, I'm not the only one, I'm not alone out here. And if they can do it, then maybe there's hope for me. So this first conversation we're going to have is with our team members, Keith and April Jones, and how an affair threatened to destroy their marriage and how they made it through to the other side. We're breaking this up. It's going to be a three-parter that's just so packed. There's just so much in there. We want you to be able to soak it all in, so we're going to break it up into three parts. But we're just excited about this new series, and here we go with Keith and April Jones.
We're talking about the marriage and recovery from marriage. So if we're talking about that, we're going to give people, the history of it. How are you guys today? How is Keith today? How is April today? And how is your marriage right now?
Well, today it is much different than where we started. Even when we first got married, we thought we had this great marriage. But today it is so incredibly different and so incredibly better because we're learning to communicate so much better. And I don't take on his issues and I don't think he's taken on mine, and to where we can be honest with each other. I think at the beginning, you're trying to portray something, this marriage that you see that you compare to other people and on TV and ministers when they speak, you just don't really hear what's going on behind the scenes. And so we were trying to have this expectation. And now we're able to be comfortable with each other. When he's having a bad day, doesn't mean I have to have a bad day. And our boundaries are so much better. And we can express our needs a lot better, and to where we really feel heard and we're not having to fight to get our way.
One thing that's really different is our conversations. We talk about things, the essence of life. We get into our feelings. If one of us is frustrated, we'll just say, you know what, I'm just having a rough time. Where before it was all about the upcoming vacation. What are we going to do this weekend? What'd you do at work? It was just run-of-the-mill stuff that, in the end doesn't really draw you closer to one another. And it really doesn't amount to anything. I mean, you could tell your coworker the same thing, have the same conversation with a coworker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's interesting to see then. So how does, a marriage in which you're comfortable with talking about feelings and you have open, how does somebody end up with a marriage like that? Let's go back to the beginning and find out how you did this.
Point 16 years ago, where she told me that that's what she wanted. And this was after a big crisis in our life and in our marriage. And I just sat in bed and cried because there was no way I was going to be intimate in an emotional setting, intimacy with anybody. I was raised that wasn't the way you lived your life. And, it took about 3 years, and it took God pulling some strings, and it took some people that were in my life to be obedient to speak into my life. And April's consistent love for me that never wavered, that caused me to end up being able to change into the man that I am today.
Yeah. And so you had to bump up against some stuff and inside yourself and wrestle. And so then let's go back and talk about, so how did you, where did those, what was the big moment in your life? What was the big letdown in your marriage that led you to somewhat, I guess, be forced to change or go your separate ways, I guess, in some ways? Where did, how was marriage, how was marriage when you started out?
When we started out, we were friends, we were partners, we did everything together. We, would routinely go out on the weekends and be out till 1 o'clock in the morning. We'd go eat, we'd go to a movie, we'd go to a theme park. We never fought.
We never fought. And looking back, somebody would say you never fought, but I never, my disappointment I held inside of me, and the way it would come out, because I didn't have a really good role model with my parents. Everything was fine. They ended up getting a divorce after I was in college, but I never saw how to resolve conflict. And so to me, conflict was bad and that you'll be rejected. And so I knew I had this spirit, in church I learned I had a spirit of rejection. So I'm like, I'll just not have that and I'll pray it away or whatever. But I didn't realize I was operating out of not being rejected. And so I was going to hurt him before he hurt me. And so I didn't even realize I was doing that, but it would come out as sarcasm and silent treatment. So if I wasn't being heard, he has a really strong personality, which drew me to him. But then when we were married and I was living with it daily, and I thought in church, you're supposed to sacrifice yourself for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I was giving to the church. We were involved in every ministry at every church we ever belonged to. And so really when we came home to each other, we didn't have a lot to give to each other. We would talk about our great deeds we did for other people. And so if I was hurt by him, I was very sarcastic, but I didn't know it. I thought I was being funny. And silent treatment, I wouldn't let him in. And I just wanted him to hurt as bad as I was hurting.
Yeah. Yeah. The language of sarcasm, that's something, I lived in a house for 3 or 4 years with 5 guys. And that was just the language of the house was sarcasm. That's how you communicated. And so, so that would tend to come natural to me as well. So yeah, I hear that. And actually to figure out that for some people that's hurtful, was a little odd for me.
Yeah. You don't realize what sarcasm does. It diminishes the individual that it's directed at. It nullifies their right to have feelings about it, really, because everybody in the end is ha ha ha. And what's happening on the inside is you're just being nullified or diminished in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's like somebody shares with you, and you're like, I don't know, that's uncomfortable for me. I don't like that. Let me say something sarcastic, funny, and then we can move past it. Well, now that person's been, completely disregarded.
Yep.
Yeah. And what I found with, learning now is how to create a safe place in our marriage to where we can be vulnerable with each other. So really sarcasm was preventing him from being real with me. Because he was scared if he was actually to open up and share his heart and the struggles he was having, well, I would come right at him being sarcastic because I didn't know how to deal with that. So really, we were setting each other up to not be safe with each other, which ended up driving us outside our marriage to look for that safe place, which was sad that we were doing the very opposite of what we intended to have in our marriage.
Yeah. So your sarcasm made you not safe for him, and his, I don't know, what is it like? I mean, you said he was sort of a strong personality.
Yeah.
And so that kind of
opinionated, and he liked having his way, and
so you were never going to be right, kind of, April, like you were scared to say anything because you were not right. And so that was the kind of the pushing. That's what made neither one of you safe for either.
Mm-hmm.
Like just a simple example is I said we would go out to eat on the weekends all the time. And I would ask her, well, where do you want to go? I don't care, wherever you want to go. Because she knew, or her mind was, he really doesn't care where I want to go. He's going to go wherever he's going to go anyway. Mm-hmm. And don't really know that ever really played out back in the day. I mean, that was a long time ago, but it could have. It certainly could have.
Well, let me just tell you this. I will be honest. It would start out with, hey, would you like to go to these two steak places? Which one would you want? You want to go to Outback, or do you want to go to Taste of Texas? And so I'm thinking, well, maybe I really wanted to go to Outback or whatever, Saltgrass. And he might be thinking, well, she's probably just trying to save money, but we could really go to Taste of Texas. So he would say, well, you sure you don't want to go to Taste of Texas?
Yeah.
So even though he's trying to help me, but he's not saying it in an honest way, I'm taking it as he could care less what I wanted to do. When he was trying to maybe help me, this place is better. But I internalized that as he could care less, so might as well, we'll just go wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
And then I would be hurt, diminished, and sarcasm would come out later that night.
Yeah, wow.
That's pretty accurate.
That's good. That's good stuff. And so you guys, you get to the place where neither one of you are safe for the other person, and so what happens to people like that? You drift apart. What happens when you get?
An example. I was working for a church here in our hometown, and we had a tropical storm come through. And the wind was coming such that it kind of blew rain up the wall, and, didn't come through the roof. It came between the wall and the roof down and flooded one of our rooms at the church. Well, it also backed up in our backyard. The water couldn't escape to the front yard to drain out into the street, and it came into our house. And I was up at the church helping. That was my job. And then, I get a phone call from April saying, hey, we got water in the house. And the pastor's heard it, says, what are you doing here? You need to get home. But I was like, are you sure you don't need me here? It's like I was really almost wanting to be there at the church to do that. And we had a little 3-year-old, a baby at home, and April was sitting there at home dealing with water in the house, and we had a company headed out to do some water remediation at the house.
And so that's where he felt more valued, even though it wasn't being spoken or even aware. But you go and you're at where you feel valued. So he felt more valued at church than he did at home, because I'm sure I would have critiqued him. He wasn't doing it right. So it kind of led us on this path to our crisis.
So that was part one of our discussion with Keith and April Jones. I know there was a lot in there, some stuff to take with you there. There's a lot more to come. So if you like that, click subscribe down below and click the bell so you'll get notifications on when the next episode releases, which will be very soon. And we look forward to having you here with more discussions of real life and how people recovered from it. And we hope this is inspiring to you, whether you're dealing with things or you know others that are dealing with things. We look forward to seeing you next time around.